So, hi everybody, Leslie from Digital Fire. Welcome to the webinar, and we've got Nathan Taylor, very special guest with us. Nate Taylor goes by Nate, and so Nate works for Galactic Security. They're a firm that we pay to hack us and to help us with security. So Nate is their principal security researcher. So his job is to stay on top of the absolute latest security trends, all the crazy stuff that's going on out there, and then inform their internal security experts on what's going on, who would then pass it on to their clients. So yeah, I guess Nate, do you want to maybe introduce yourself and give us a little background about kind of where you used to be a former hacker, right? So that's a kind of a cool thing. So I don't know if you want to share that story, but yeah, why don't you
Yeah,
introduce yourself?
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it, Leslie. So, yeah, my background is actually in hacking, and I think we have a motto at Galactic Security, Galactic Advisors, which is think like a hacker, right? So the idea is to kind of adopt that adversarial mindset by getting into the hackers' heads, by thinking like a hacker in order to secure you from hackers. Because a lot of that, and I think we were talking about this just before the broadcast, that picture of a guy sitting in his basement with a hacker hoodie up is no longer the reality in the threat landscape, right? That's no longer what's happening. So you kind of need someone that's on the inside to be able to inform you about stuff like that. So I'm a former black hat hacker. I went white hat, and I get to still be involved in the security community and security research. I still get to stay, super up to date on evolving threats, and I'm still involved in those communities. So it's great to kind of keep my finger on the pulse there. And so now I talk to CEOs and owners and executives, just like Leslie, to sort of guide them through and advise them about auditing their environment and your environment in order to kind of meet cybersecurity standards and just build out comprehensive security programs. So that's kind of my background. I can't talk too much about my past as a hacker, but I can tell you at about 12 years old, I'd gotten a visit from the FBI. And they said, hey, we know you didn't do this, but you should stop hanging around these people. And that was kind of how it started, was 12 years old, hanging around groups of much older hackers online that were, at the time, they were actually involved. We didn't all know, but they were actually involved in healthcare related hacking. So some of you might know this. If you search around, you might be able to find information on it. But the original thing was they had one of the members of this group of young guys that used to just kind of hang around on the internet had compromised a hospital system's ventilators. So this was before the days where ransomware was everywhere. He had compromised the ventilation systems and the HVAC systems, and so luckily he was caught before he kind of revealed his plan to the outside world. And that was kind of how I got my first visit and got my start. And they said, hey, we know you had nothing to do with this, but you're hanging in some bad crowds. So that was kind of my first awareness of that hacking world.
Wow. So I mean, good for you for taking the this path as opposed to what it could have been, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's hacking is a really interesting kind of field because a lot of these hackers, they want to make a huge impact, right? Some of them just want to hack for popularity, for bragging rights, and then there's others that are financially motivated. And then we have nation state actors, and we have organized crime, and there's a combination of all of these kind of elements and assets coming together. And so some people are able to totally fly under the radar, and other people are 14, 15-year-old kids who have no idea what they're doing and just want to make a couple of dollars, or are just curious. They're technology minded, and they just want to break something, and they get roped in, and they get a visit from the alphabet soup boys, as we call them, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA.
I haven't heard that before. The alphabet soup boys. Oh boy.
It's a wild
I think
world.
the alphabet soup boys sound serious.
They are. But it's great to be able to kind of help MSPs. I also have kind of a background in the defense industry. So I started working in the defense industry, working with weapon systems and drones and things like that. I worked with military control systems as a software developer and also advising them on security. So I worked for a lot of the big names, some that I can't disclose, but obviously, Boeing, a lot of Raytheon clients, Blue Origin, things like that. So had a lot of fun there, learned a lot there, and so I have kind of a background in operational technology like nuclear power plants and SCADA systems and things like that. And now I work for Galactic, and I kind of try to guide our security research team.
Sounds good. We'll advocate for a raise for you there. So, okay. So this webinar is going to be about, what do we see coming up for 2024? The audience is small business owners. So, we want to try to get real practical about what you can expect and what's coming up this year, right here, right now, and also maybe in the coming years and what you should be looking for, sort of trends in the industry. But I like to try to keep it practical so that we can, this webinar ends at 1:00. What's your next step, sort of thing, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're just going to get into a variety of topics about. We'll talk about AI. We'll talk about new technologies. We'll talk about security, of course, and yeah. So I think let's just jump right into it. I mean, yeah. AI is on everyone's minds. There was, I didn't put it up in this set of slides, but there's a cartoon that was about, well, I don't really know what AI is or what to do with it, but everyone's doing it, so I'm doing it too. and and it's kind of, that's what it feels like, is that nobody really is certain about how to use it or what it's for, or it just has all this hype, and it's got some substance. There's some stuff there that, I mean, Tesla's version 12 now is out, and it's supposed to be this wonderful, like, great self-driving 99.9% thing. We'll see if it delivers on that. But I mean, Elon said this year that they'll basically, 3 million cars will suddenly be able to drive themselves, and they'll quintuple in value because you'll be able to make money on your Tesla as a ride sharing service because it can drive itself. That's what he said. We'll see what the fact happens. But that this year we should see some, like, real world impacts of, like, that's okay, something changed in my life, because in my life, in our lives, in something fundamental that we see. That Tesla example, but another example is Copilot just came out. Duet is already out for Google Workspace users. Copilot, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. Copilot is actually out. Yeah. You can buy it for $30 a user now. Yeah. And so that's real. Like, you could compose an email this afternoon with Copilot, right? So yeah, kind of. Let's just, I'll open the floor. What do you see about this? I mean, AI getting real and practical and actually affecting our lives this year.
You're absolutely right. I mean, AI has been a total game changer, right? It was one of those things where, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is sort of under an umbrella that people like to call Web3, which is like the next generation of the web. And AI is one of those big leaps. Like, the internet was a big leap. Cryptocurrency and the technology behind that, whether you use it or not, financially, was a huge leap, right? Like decentralized banking, it opened everything up. And now I think the newest one is AI. So there is a lot of hype around it, but the hype is valid, right? Like, companies are investing billions of dollars into AI. The kind of funding that ChatGPT, which was super popular, got was absolutely incredible. It was insane. And now, we see Musk, competing. I think he's got his own AI platform now to kind of compete with ChatGPT that you can access through Twitter, which is now X. Don't ban me from the internet for saying Twitter anymore, but so it's definitely, it's a disruptive technology, but I think there's a lot to take away here, because for the end user, right, for small companies, for everyday people, like, what are the effects of AI on their life, and how do you not miss the boat, right? Like, how do you integrate AI into your life, into your business, make it more productive in a secure way without missing the boat? And so there's sort of two sides, I think, of the AI coin. And you can speak to this too, Leslie, but I think one side is the people who are developing the AI software. Um, it costs a lot of money to get a developer to code you a custom piece of software with AI in it that is totally new, that is totally custom. Big companies are doing that, huge companies. I think Toyota was working with that. A lot of the major automotive manufacturers are working with that. They're trying to introduce custom AI solutions into their supply chain to make the way that they deliver cars and parts and service way more efficient, right? And that's cool for the big guys, but for people like us, when we're smaller, like, how do we use it and utilize it? And so I think there's that side, and I think it's important to be aware that vendors are then taking those AI solutions and offering it to everyone else. And so the solutions that are offered to everyone else is where AI starts to benefit you as a small business. If someone comes along and tells you, hey, you can make this custom AI app and I'll code it for you and it'll revolutionize your business, just say no. It's quite unstable. There's from a technical perspective, there's a whole a website that I track called, it's like LLM exploits, and it's all about the unwritten, unpublicized exploits in AI models, and there are a lot of them. And just my background from security, we don't yet have security procedures or even policies around disclosing problems with AI. Like there's very few websites where you can go to and see, like, when was the last time you saw like a news article saying, well, there's this issue with this AI software, ChatGPT. Okay, that's great, but where is it documented? Where is the information? What do we need to know? And that's kind of where it falls short. So there's this AI gold rush where I see the bear chasing it. It's almost like the bear of AI is chasing everyone because so many people are using it, but there's no security around it, right? There's no.
It really is the wild west. Like the gold rush, it's there's no laws, there's no rules. It's all self regulating, which means it's not regulated at all. And it's just this huge rush to get to the new technology as fast as possible. And frankly, security slows things down, right?
It does.
So, and you have, you want to do it in a responsible, ethical, secure way, but it's so important to be first, right? And we're asking the people that are creating it to also police themselves and to balance the, we want to be first, but we want to do it, right and ethically and securely, but we got to be first. And like those are at odds, right? It's the wild west, and it doesn't. I don't know, that's not a great setup.
It's not a great setup, and it's doomed for a lot of issues. But sort of just like the cryptocurrency or any of these new technologies, it's not going anywhere, right? This is not like a fad that's gonna die out at some point. It absolutely isn't, right? These models have billions of parameters, and now the new versions have trillions. And so if you can imagine a brain with trillions of synapses, that's essentially what is happening. And then imagine if your brain with its trillions of synapses was connected to the whole internet or to these massive sets of information on people or processes. And so it's not going anywhere. So I think when it comes to small businesses, it is about getting ahead. But the question is, how do you do it and who do you trust? And I think the real conversation behind that has to be about the vendors that are distributing AI-enabled tools or AI integrations, like Microsoft Copilot. And I think it's about choosing the right vendors and the right solutions and learning how you can trust the AI solution that you're putting in place. Because what you're doing when you put AI into place is you have to feed it data. If you want to have AI work with any data that's relevant to you or your customers, you have to feed it information. And this raises a real security concern, not just, oh, it slows us down. But if you do that wrong and there's an issue, you've got legal issues on your hands because you've essentially given, confidential customer information to a robot that may not necessarily be secure, that's connected to the internet. I don't know if you've ever
no
watched
ethics at all, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not programmed to do that. So
Have you ever watched that Ex Machina movie? It's like
yes. Wow, I don't remember it. And now you're well, okay. Yeah.
at the end of the movie,
It's a man that builds it. It's a female robot, and she's in some sort of competition or something like that. And there's like a race around a loop or something. Or
yeah,
is that the one?
It's like, yeah, it's a female robot, and the whole point is they're trying to find out if she's real intelligence. So
Right.
they have to test her by talking to her and interviewing her, and essentially she escapes this secret facility. But I think like the big thing is at the end of this, there's this really foreboding moment where she escapes this secure facility, this AI robot, and she's seen just walking around New York. And there's all this, sketchy, foreboding music of, oh no, AI's been released on the world and it can do anything, and it's very smart and it's got all this information. Like, what is it going to do next?
It could be among us right now. Yeah. Maybe I'm an AI. Yeah. Okay. So pretty cool and scary stuff, I guess. Yeah. So, is it going to take away all of our jobs? Are we all just going to be useless now because AI is taken over? Or does it change things? Like Chipotle just released that they're going to have robots make salads now.
And burritos.
Sorry?
And burritos.
And burritos, cool. So yeah, so that, I mean, literally they aren't going to have humans make the salads anymore, right? So, but then maybe somebody needs to maintain those machines. So yeah, how does it change what we do, right? Like, are humans going to be obsolete?
Yeah, I think not. There's I think we get asked this question all the time. Is everybody going to lose their jobs to the AI revolution? No. But there are jobs that people will lose due to AI because AI can do a better job. And I just want to be clear about that. Content creation is one of those fields where having a conversation like you and I are having is never going to be replaced by a robot. However, writing a blog post can be done far better by AI and far better by automation most of the time. We're still in early stages, we're in infancy, and so there's still questions about that, but in general there are jobs that will become obsolete, or at least people will have to catch up in terms of skill levels. So that's great that you can run ChatGPT and create a blog post, but why would I hire you to create my blog posts if I can just do it with ChatGPT? So people like copywriters and even people in marketing will need to make sure that they step up their subject matter expertise, because there's still a lot that can't be automated, that won't be automated. And then we've also got a gap, right? We've got a huge gap of time in between AI coming out and then when these different solutions come into play. And so you've got all that time for human skills to kind of advance, not just to tend and take care of the machines, but to kind of think about how to use that AI in original human ways. I think that's what we see.
I think that's where the opportunity is, right? And I mean, the gold rush part of this is that there will be a time in X number of years or that these will just be ubiquitous. Everyone will use it, right? But the first movers between now and when everyone has it, there's an opportunity and also a risk there, right? So if you're the first one among all of your competitors to adopt an AI and make it successful, and your salad making robot can make more salads, and therefore you can sell more salads and they're good enough quality, and what if you put in the robot, you put in all this work and effort, whatever, and the salads they make are horrible, right? And then you just that's not going to work. It's a failure, right? And you've invested all this time and money, and right. So there will be some of that, but some of those. So in that time period where there's these first movers, there's a risk and there's an opportunity there, to, if you're the first one in your industry to uh, think about a new way to do something, or use AI to deliver your service or your product in a more efficient way, right? So your example with Toyota, right? If they can maximize their supply chain efficiency, and that's so airy fairy, but like what that means is the truck might arrive, if the part is needed on the line at 10:17 a.m., the truck arrives at 27 minutes before that, because they know that it takes exactly 27 minutes for the part to get off the truck and get to the correct spot in the line where they need the part at the right time. And so they can be more efficient and deliver ultimately more Toyota Corollas. Do they even make that car? I don't know anymore. I don't know. Sorry, maybe I'm dating myself. Like more of the vehicles come off the line. You know what I mean? Like one more every 24 hours comes off the line with the same stuff they had before. Same people, same infrastructure. Well, I mean, with the added AI, but the idea is that it's got a real practical, like, bottom line difference. If you can do that in your business in these first, I don't know, call it 2 years, call it 3 years, call it 1 year. I don't know what the speed of it is, but there'll be a time where just everyone has salad making robots now. Every restaurant just has them, and that's the norm, right? Like, the first restaurant that had a drive-through, that was, that would have been super innovative at the time. Now it's just kind of normal. Like, I mean, not every restaurant has one, but it's just, given, right? So there'll be a time where everyone has salad making robots, and that's the way it's done. But the first few people to figure it out will have this massive advantage. So I think that's I mean, maybe speak to that a bit. Is it like that that's the kind of period we're in now, is figuring that all out, right? And that we're going to see some massive failures and some successes there too, right? And so,
very true.
How do we, like, to your point about, do you go and create it yourself? Do you look for other people to create it? Do you
Honestly, I think it depends on what your business goals and your business prospects are. If you are working with a startup and you want to devote yourself to a very unique AI supported solution, by all means, go all in. You could be one of the disruptors. I want to be very clear about that. There was it's a guy that I know, a friend of mine, and he set up AI to review SEC filings. He combined AI and optical character recognition, which essentially takes like a PDF file and translates it into a Word document and allows you to read it and process it. And he was able to do that for all SEC documents. And then he was able to use AI to pull out these incredible financial insights that he sold his company to some fintech, some big guys in the financial technology world. So you can't do that. You can absolutely start a startup, create your own app, do it yourself. But I'd say if you aren't devoting yourself to one single sort of AI-based, AI-enabled product or feature or offering, I would really rely on vendors that are putting out AI products. And so I think it's about learning to sort of categorize those vendors based on trust, based on reputation, based on track record. And it's about being careful in how and where you deploy AI and automation solutions in your organization. I think those are the two sides of it, because you can still get an edge in your everyday business simply by moving faster and moving more efficiently with AI. And like you said, it's not always going to be obvious, right? Like, we're going to see businesses succeed in massive ways and fail, and we're going to have no idea why, because they're not going to tell us they're using AI. So there's going to be this sort of behind the scenes, kind of Cold War arms race going on for who's utilizing AI in the most unique or beneficial ways. And so I think inventorying the products available to your business whether what you need is productivity software or time management software, or if you're a business owner, you may need financial management software. Having the right AI plugins to handle that kind of stuff can give you a huge advantage. So I think it's about deciding which
So a couple
those
things come to
reputable
mind
options
here
are.
where, it's if you have a hammer and you're looking for a nail,
Yeah.
which is sort of what it feels like, right? It's like, Copilot just got released. I got this fancy new hammer. What can I hit with it, right? Can I hit and make an email with it? Can I make a presentation with it? But I got a fancy new hammer. I'd like to find a way to use it, sort of thing, right? So, I mean, that isn't the way that you should solve business problems. That we solve business problems, right? Is that our the way that we should solve business problems is to find a nail,
Yeah,
that needs fixing, and then
exactly.
we figure out the correct tool to fix the problem, right? So it sounds like anything else, what we should do is start with what our biggest business problem is, right?
Exactly.
And
Start
then,
with what you know.
maybe there's an AI solution. Suddenly, there's this new plethora of tools available to us that we didn't have before, right? It's like somebody gave you a garage full of tools that you didn't
Hmm.
have. And then, but instead of picking out a neat looking tool and going to see, well, I got a drill, what can I use this for, right? We should go back to the way we've always solved problems, which is, what is, except maybe open our minds to possibilities that didn't exist, because now you have a table saw, so you can cut wood. I was just working on a construction project on the weekend, so it's on the brain, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't own a table saw, then cutting like a 7-foot piece of wood is going to be hard to do it straight with a circular saw. I don't know if people are getting the analogy, but it's just, if you don't have the tool, then like the possibility is not open to you. Like, if cell phones didn't exist, right? I was talking to my daughter about this, and I was saying, yeah, my dad used to pick me up and stuff, and I didn't have a cell phone. It blew her mind, because she's like, well, how did you communicate? I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we had to make a plan before I went to school, and he would say that he'd pick me up, and if he wasn't there, or if I wasn't there, like, we'd wait. That's it. You wait, because you don't have a way to call them. Like, it's, like, he's probably coming, right? And if there's traffic, there's traffic. Or if I got stuck at school and I didn't come out, then he waited 20 minutes for me to finish with whatever I was doing at school that day or something. It just, that's it, right? It blew her mind. Is like, that just, how did you even live, sort of thing, right? So it's the it's we have this new plethora of tools available to us, but we should still go back to, what is the problem I'm trying to solve, right? What and
Yeah.
have an open mind about this, like, no, I could never do that before. Yeah, but you have these new tools that you possibly can now, right? And I think that's where it calls on us as business owners to be innovative, to be creative, to be entrepreneurial, right? That's the whole, that's what business is about, is to, come up with interesting ideas. So that still exists, and that human part, to speak to this slide, is that AI is not going to take away that creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit, and seeing opportunities where these tools can help. That's not going anywhere. It's human innovation that is, the you know that's still there. So yeah, it feels like we're going about this a little backwards, where you're like, you have this cool
Yeah.
tool, and then you're like, what am I going to do with this
Exactly.
tool? Um, yeah.
You're so right, and you're one of the few people that I've heard say this and explain this the right way. It's you hit the nail on the head, right? To kind of call back to
You
your
do the analogy.
previous analogy, but that's what it is. You want to start, by solving the problems that you have with AI, and what that'll allow you to do is understand what options are out there, understand how they work, and then you can expand and say, all right, what are the more innovative, creative ways I can use this beyond the initial problems that I've solved? That's kind of the route, because if you take any other route, if you go backwards, you're almost you're going after how the crypto markets went, where everyone and their mother just heard crypto, didn't know what it was, didn't really know what it was solving, and was just like, buy, buy, buy. And that's a risk. You
And
don't
then the
want to just
price
buy, buy, buy.
goes crazy, because you have all sorts of speculation, and so it's chaos, basically.
Yeah.
So and that's going to happen. That's this first little bit. is probably a whole lot of chaos, right? And this gold rush piece where nobody really knows what's happening or how, and so ethics and wild west and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So um, yeah,
There's a set of human skills that can really never be replaced by AI. And those same skills are sort of the skills that are going to inform you on how to properly use AI itself. So I think there's quite a few, like the critical thinking, right? The creativeness, all of those things are useful and almost necessary in every step of picking a proper AI product, picking a proper vendor, going through and applying it to your business, and then once you do that, deciding what you're going to use it for. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hype, and I just, I don't know what your opinion is, Leslie, but I would advise people, just don't buy into it. Have that plan in place as a business, saying, we're not going to slow down here. We are going to be the ones who push forward. We are going to be the ones who push the limits, but here's our process for doing it. First, as soon as possible, we review what problems we have and how verified, backed, research backed AI tools with good reputations can solve those problems. And then you can expand to kind of the riskier, more disruptive moves with AI, because you could be surprised about even just going through that checklist and, what could AI do just to solve your everyday business problems, and how far could that get you on its own?
and then on the discussion of should I do it myself or should I find a vendor, right? That's a classic discussion. It's the same discussion of I have a pair of scissors on my desk, right? I mean, we're an IT company. If I wanted to, I could go get some machines and I don't know how you make scissors, but like I'm sure I could figure out. Like I use these scissors, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a tool in my business. And so I'm sure that I could go figure out how to manufacture scissors. So should for my, I know this is a ridiculous example. I get it. I'm just should for my business, should I get into the business of manufacturing scissors, make these things? Because if I make them, then I can make them for cheaper than I can buy them at Staples for. Like, what do these cost at Staples? I don't know, $8, $5. I have no idea. But I could probably make it for 50 cents if I made it myself, right? So, that if you just look at that, it's like, you know what? Instead of fixing computer, not instead of, in addition to fixing computers, I should start making my own scissors because these are, I use these in my business, and so I could have a pair of scissors that I make on all of my staff's desks, and so obviously it's a ridiculous argument, but the what is the measure there is like, is it your core competency, right? If scissors is actually super key to me delivering value to my customers, then I should make scissors, right?
No, you're
If
absolutely
scissors
right.
is
Yeah.
just a commodity that I use along the way and it doesn't really, it's got to be up to a base quality level. But beyond that, what's available in the market is good enough. And yes, it's more expensive than if I did it myself, but it's not core to the delivery of value to my customers, right? So put that in the AI conversation and say, well, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Is it, uh, you know, the use of AI? Does that directly correlate to the value you are giving to customers? If your use of AI,
Exactly.
you know, if it makes you more efficient, that's one thing. But if it actually makes better products, better services, faster to do all whatever, right? But if you consider it a core competency, then yeah, go and learn it. Go and figure out how to make scissors, make your own model, like dive in, do the R&D on it. There's also an interesting side opportunity here, shred. I don't do shred, but the scientific research and experimental development here in the U.S. But we have a program in Canada here where the government will reward businesses for taking risks, right?
Hmm.
So this has all over it and you get a refundable tax credit. So if you don't have someone for shred, let me know, and then I can I can refer you to someone. Again, we don't do it, but this is ripe for that because there's so much uncertainty here.
Yeah.
And so you can get back tax breaks and refundable checks from the government on money that you've spent on trying this and that. It's meant for encouraging innovation, and going into places that we don't know if this is going to work or not. But again, I think it goes back to the core competency bit. Is if the thing you're trying to make is solving a problem that's going to create value for customers, and it's core to what you do, then yes, spend the time, innovate, do the R&D, and it happens to be in the AI field, but you're doing innovation in R&D and trying it because it has this potential to create massive value for your customers. If it's scissors, and that's not core to your business, then you shouldn't do it. Then you should buy the best off the shelf scissors you could probably find, but you should buy them off the shelf from a vendor.
That's true.
That's done it. That makes good quality scissors, and let them innovate because that's their core competency. And you should. So, yeah, it should you outsource? Should you do it in house? That conversation.
And that is market analysis, right? That is understanding, like, if you are selling those scissors versus using those scissors internally, how much of a boost is it going to give you internally versus your core competency is scissors and you can make better scissors by all means. If your core competency is something that can be totally transformed by AI, by all means do that, but make sure you do the market research because you are in a competition here. Right? Is there already someone doing this with that same product? Or if you've got an idea for a product, is there already someone with an AI solution for that product that has, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million in venture capital funds? Because it may be that you've got a great idea, but you can have a greater idea that isn't known about, right? And that gives you a chance to innovate completely on your own. You become, sort of the first adopter. You become the first person and the only person in your specific, risky AI niche. And there's a lot of money to be made there.
So, I mean, yeah, we talked about this stuff is exactly what you're saying is I think the human part of this is still, very much there. Right. And so, yeah, there'll become a point where everyone uses it and it's just ubiquitous, but between now and then there's tremendous opportunity as well as some risk. We talked about restaurants implementing
crazy
robots and Chipotle and there's it's an interesting so why don't we jump into a little bit of security? Kind of what do you see? What's the last? And we'll shift away from AI and go to security. There is a poll up on the screen if you want to answer that, but it's about whether you're thinking about investing in some kind of AI tool that is paid and diving in or not. So what, in terms of security, kind of what have you seen over the last few years and where do you think it's going? I know that's such an open-ended question, but
I mean, over the last few years, so we saw AI take off, in the media, really pushed by ChatGPT. And the ways that it's being used there's a lot of ways. So first off, the smart attackers, okay, the sophisticated attackers are using AI, especially the language models, because that's kind of what first came on the scene was the language models. That was the first major well-known use of AI is, hey, we can help you talk better. We can answer whatever question for you. We can help you phrase this better. They really used it to improve their phishing and their spear phishing attempts. And so what we had before was we saw a lot of spam, a lot of attempts to get you to click this link or, open up your W-2s, and it was from an attacker. It was totally fake. The attacker spoofed the email, they spoofed the information. But the reason a lot of these were getting caught and we saw less of a rate of infection was because there were a lot of typos. A lot of these threat actors are all over the world. Many of them are actually very young. And the ones that aren't tend not to speak English very well, or if they are targeting a different country, they've got to have translators. I mean, I've seen this in the cybercrime underworld, on the forums and the markets, looking to hire a translator just so I can push my ransomware because they can't, properly discuss it.
That's the
And
barrier,
so,
is the language, right? Because
mhm,
if it's spelled wrong, if it's not in the right style or something, then
exactly.
your kind of spidey sense goes off, right?
Immediately. And even automated tools will detect that kind of stuff. So if you've got like a web application, firewall, and it sees information passing back and forth, or if you've got, like a web filtering system or an email gateway, it's going to catch emails that are malformed, that sound like they are coming from, some, threat actor in India or China or Pakistan that just doesn't have a good mastery of the language. ChatGPT changed all that, and AI models in general are changing all that. And so that's one way AI is being used heavily. They can just go into AI and say, write, and they don't even have to be very fluent to get ChatGPT to understand what they're saying. They can say, hey, write me this letter to explain that this is what I need to do. And this is, I work for this company and I'm distributing W-2s. Write me a letter that talks about distributing W-2s for this tax season. And ChatGPT will do it, no questions asked. Um,
Because
that
that's
was
not,
one
you're
side
not
of it.
asking it to do anything nefarious, right? That's a legitimate
Exactly.
thing. You might want to actually send an email that was telling people you were distributing. We don't have W-2s in Canada, but we have T4s. But
Mm-hmm.
I assume W-2 is a tax document that you get from your employer,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
our equivalent of T4. But it's like that's not, like, how is ChatGPT supposed to know that that's a nefarious activity? It doesn't.
It
It
can't.
could be an
Yeah.
accountant trying to do that legitimately, right?
They
So
blocked items at
it,
first for a long time, and Musk was very against blocking and censoring ChatGPT, even some of its more nefarious capabilities. He actually spoke a lot about this. He wanted it to be sort of an open world, and that's not good for us from a cyber perspective.
right.
But that's something that we saw a lot. So we did see a massive trend wise. There were a massive correlated increase in phishing emails as soon as ChatGPT hit. And the quality of the emails was much higher. We were seeing a much higher acceptance rate, a much lower bounce rate, meaning they were getting through, they were actually getting to people's inboxes. So I'd say that's kind of the first thing we saw. Um, on a more kind of on a deeper, more obscure side, that the threats are getting more advanced because uh, if you are a nation state, if you are an advanced hacker, you can use AI models to improve the code that you write. And so what I mean by that is that there are a lot of instances of artificially intelligent malware. And malware was already pretty intelligent. Just on the technical side, I'll get a little nerdy here. There's something called polymorphism, which is where you've got a piece of malware and it looks a certain way. It's got a signature. It functions a certain way. It's this one file. With polymorphism, you can change the nature of that file constantly so that it evades antivirus, it evades EDR, MDR protection tools. And so take that and then add even more AI intelligence to it from the attacker's side, and you've got a piece of malware that can hide from you without the attacker having to hide it.
Wow. To hide
So
itself, because what you're
yeah,
talking about there, because the old antivirus was a real simple, like, the file name or the process that it's running, is it on this list, yes or no, right? The more advanced EDR, MDR, is like, what's the behavior, like it's sending
yep.
stuff out on the network, or it's touching every file, or it uses this much CPU, or it's sort of what is the general, and I think that's what you're talking about, is the signature of it, sort of thing. But if the polymorphism stuff is making that change, like it acts differently in different scenarios or just randomly, then the behavior that MDR, EDR software signature, it's not going to be able to detect it, and it just won't know. And so it won't catch it.
Well, I want you to think about this too. Um, the way that our behavior based um, EDR, MDR detection solutions work is through AI. A lot of the big ones have machine learning models that monitor malware and monitor threats and try to pre-predict what is a threat based on previous behavior that it's seen and that it's logged. The thing about making AI so open source and so public now is that the attackers can do the reverse, and they can train their malware on the AI that's trying to stop it. So you've literally got two AI, basically intelligent robots, trying to outthink each other, which is a crazy thing that a lot of people haven't really discussed. Now that's
Wow.
coming in the pipeline. I'm not going to say every single attacker is using it. This is something that much more sophisticated attackers are using. But in the cybercrime world, the way it works, for anyone who isn't aware, is advanced threats get passed down all the way down the chain. So you'll get a very advanced tool, maybe made by a nation state or even the NSA. We've seen the NSA release tools that later get used by hackers. We see advanced threats publishing these tools and these exploits, and then mid-level people hear about it. Mid-level, cybersecurity people hear about it, and then they talk about it, like me. We talk, we push news articles and we say, hey, there's this going on and that going on, and we're not hackers, but this is what we're doing. This is what we're seeing and hearing, and then eventually it drifts down into the very lowest levels of sort of the cybercrime landscape. And so something that's extremely advanced and was coded by some, genius software developer who sits in a room and I'm just going to say it, who sits in an area in the Kremlin, a little FSB office and codes malware, that guy's code and that guy's simple tool and solution gets passed all the way down until it's in the hands of a 14, 15-year-old kid who just wants attention or just wants to poke around or break something. And that's sort of the danger here, right? There was an AI application that was passed down to that very group of people. It's people from the ages of about 14 to 29, and huge, variety of demographics. Organized crime is involved. They recruit people from those groups. But there was a release of something called Worm GPT that you can look up, and it was a modified version of ChatGPT just to help hackers write malware. Because ChatGPT, if you ask it, it says, "No, I'm not going to do that for you." Someone put out a modified version of their own ChatGPT that let you just say, "Hey, I need this malware, and it needs to do this and that," and boom, it would generate the code. It would write the malware for you.
Wow.
And so that was a huge deal. That was a huge deal in the industry, and that was on cybercrime forums that were not even on the dark web, that were just on the plain internet.
Wow.
So that blew up.
So it's a whole manufacturing scheme, right? It's not just somebody that released some cool tool. It's a tool that makes tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you don't know what it's going to do. People can now use it to make tools, right? So it's like instead of somebody making a really nasty kind of gun, they made you could now make your own gun factory, and everyone can have their own gun factory. And so who knows what kind of gun
3D printer.
Those gun factories.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it's and I think that understanding kind of like that life cycle is important, because what happens is when this new technology comes out, for a little while it's just the advanced guys, and then because of the way the hacker world works, I can't make exact predictions, but based on what we've seen in the past, I would say in the next year to 3 years, you're going to see a revolution in how advanced malware is based on AI and how advanced the attack chains you're going to see are. Because the hackers who know what they're doing, as a security researcher, white hat hacker, I can tell you, we've got some ideas. And we have to, it's almost funny because as security researchers, we have to almost invent the bad guys' tools before they do.
Right.
So we have to find out how they're going to abuse them before they abuse them. so that we can warn you about it beforehand. So there's a race on that side too.
So there's this
But
arms race there. Yeah.
yeah,
What you say is it's familiar because that's how technology works in the, with a new technology, not bad technology. Like, there was a time where firewalls were this crazy thing that were millions of dollars and only enterprises had them, right? Antivirus was the same way when it started, or these more advanced like EDR. Now, like everyone, like all of our customers have EDR on their. It's just like normal, right? To have this AI looking for malware on your computer. But there was a time where not that long ago where that was enterprise technology that was millions of dollars and there was no way small business could afford it. So if this new fancy stuff is expensive and then starts with enterprise and then filters down to medium-sized businesses,
okay.
eventually small businesses, eventually becomes ubiquitous and everyone has it. So I don't know what the appropriate word is, interesting, funny, scary, but it works the same way, right? Is like
All of the above,
the
right?
best funded, most advanced people use these super advanced tools and they keep doing that, right?
Yeah.
And then, once they're regularly using them, they become more ubiquitous and filtered down and everybody has them and they become the new standard. Um, so
It's very
yeah,
true. And
scary
the
stuff.
statistics you have there, I can say, especially the first three are very accurate. The Kerber roasting, identity-based attack techniques, token theft, huge. That is something the beginning of the year, token theft through Google, token theft through Microsoft 365, where they can steal your login token and they don't even need your password. And then targeting
And that
specifically things
gets
like
by
Active
two-factor
Directory,
authentication, that gets by your password, that
it
all of the
bypasses
stuff
everything.
that we have doesn't matter anymore. They just get in.
Huge trend. And then abusing RMM tools and specifically abusing the tools inside of MSPs. We call that living off the land. They're abusing the tools that MSPs use to support and that just most organizations have within their infrastructure, like PowerShell. And that's how they're flying under the radar. And then the last thing you had there, credential theft via cloud instances. Absolutely. And that's for developers or for people that are running their own cloud instances, development wise, especially if you're developing an app in your business, you really, really need to be aware of the security there. So I can definitely speak to those three heavily.
Mm-hmm. And then the breakout time for everybody on the call refers to the hacker gets in, they look for stuff, data they can take out that's worth something, right? So Visa card numbers, first names, last names, passwords, driver's licenses, and there's a real I don't have anything. All I do for customers is XYZ, and so I don't have. I guarantee that if we search your server with software that can identify this stuff, there will be stuff that is valuable to a hacker. It is, the argument that's like, well, I'm not a target, so I don't have to worry about it, sort of thing. Honestly, they don't. I don't. Maybe you can speak to this, but they just like hack across the board because everybody has something valuable.
Yeah.
If what I've said before is if it's actually targeted, like if a nation state zeroes in on they want your business, you're screwed. There's like nothing you can do. They're going to get it. That's it. They have way more resources, way more everything than any of us could ever defend against, right?
And they only need to get in
sort of
once.
blanket clicking.
That's the whole thing about, we call them advanced persistent threats. They only need one way in. You have to defend all these different areas of your surface, and they only need to have you slip up once, just one way in. So statistically, it's you actually can't stop advanced threats. It is about how you handle them once they get into your business. So
that's a very important point, and the increased cost. I don't sell insurance. Neither of us do. Go get cybersecurity insurance. If you don't already have it, go get cybersecurity insurance. Right? Start there. So, we're for a lot of businesses, their existence, their ability to continue business solvency was threatened by this having happened to them. So,
the ransomware threats are bad. They're bad, and they will destroy your business quickly, especially small to medium-sized businesses. They're sort of the biggest victims there. I could say, I mean,
So
working
it's
with.
not I'm not a target. This won't happen to me. It will. It's not a question. It's a when. It's not an if sort of
Yeah,
thing. So
and
it's
I think a lot of people, Leslie, I think that they think, well, I don't have anything that valuable, so they won't target me. But it's sort of like the same way AI is. They're scanning the whole internet, and they're looking for anyone to target. So if they see a hole, they'll hit you and ransomware you, and then worry about what you're willing to pay them later, and worry about how much your business is worth to you later. Some of them don't even do any reconnaissance on you. They don't know you. They don't care. All they care about is how many computers they lock down, and then they just send out letters like debt collectors saying, "Hey, I need 20,000, I need 50,000, I need 100,000." And I don't think the statistics were in here, but the majority of small to medium-sized businesses simply cannot survive ransomware attacks. It's damaging, especially without cyber insurance.
crazy stuff. So we're up at the 1 o'clock bit. Let's just end with the fact that we want to change this to. There was topics in here about humanoid robots. Maybe we can, in a few months, we can get together again and keep going because there's so much here. But why don't we end with connecting it to business, right? Because we said we get practical, right? So things like Duet and Copilot and ChatGPT, you can try those. Be careful what you put in the public ChatGPT. Copilot and Duet you can use internally. You can try Copilot right with Microsoft Edge, right? So you can download Microsoft, or if it's not already on your computer, probably is already on your computer. That's the browser. Just look for the icon on the top right, and it's right there. Bing/new is another way to do it. It's free. But yeah, it's sort of what you should think about is that same old entrepreneurial business. How can you use this as a first mover advantage, or whether you're going to do it internally or whether you're going to hire a vendor to do it. But stick with how does it change your goals? What are your goals? Do you want to grow? Do you want to stay the same? Are you handing the business over to your kids? Are you, what are you trying to achieve? What is the problem? What is the disruption in your industry maybe that you could solve? What's that sort of stuff? And then so instead of finding the tool and looking for a nail, start with your business first, right? And figure out which one of these tools and how you can apply them to your business. So yeah, maybe just comment on that and then we'll end it there. My apologies, Nate. I don't know. Can you hear me? Because suddenly we can't hear you. Not sure what happened.
That works better. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat that?
Excellent. Sorry. So I apologize for that. So I would say that as the people that kind of help, your people, like Leslie, protect you, from a security perspective, it's so key here. The thing I would go out on is, do not, just share information with AI products and platforms and vendors without vetting them. And so what I mean by that is, you need to ensure that when you give a vendor information, they have published, documented information on how they're going to keep your data that you give them safe. The reason for this is because even if they do, excuse my French, fuck up, you're protected from a liability perspective. So if there's one thing I can leave you with there, and this will apply if you have cyber insurance as well, they have requirements around vetting who you work with. If you're going to be feeding data into an AI product or some sort of automation tool, make sure that you work with Leslie to review, and I'm sure he can speak to you about this, to review and look into the vendor and say, what did they have published about how they handle your data, not just from a privacy perspective or like a GDPR perspective, but also from a security, a technical security perspective. Have they committed to protect this data, or are they sharing it with third parties? Some of these vendors, you wouldn't even realize they have little clauses in the fine print that say, we share this with a bunch of people. And that can very quickly result in an incident. And if you're reviewed by either a compliance auditor or even by cyber insurance, and something happens, there's no guarantee that you won't be affected financially because you gave your data away to someone that you didn't vet and didn't trust. So that's the
And
last
if that
thing
data is your
that.
customer's data, then how are they going to
Yeah,
feel about that, right? What's that conversation going to be like? Is, whoops, sorry, this breach happened. It was out of our control, but yeah, we gave your data to them 6 months ago and we didn't tell you about it.
exactly.
That's not a fun conversation. So, very good point. So, yeah, thank you for being on. This has been super valuable. I hope we can
Thank
do this
you.
again sometime. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you for the
Awesome
conversation.
speaking to you, and you've been an awesome partner with Galactic Advisors. So really, really appreciate this, and I really appreciate seeing you educating the community and clients. So thank you so much, man.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.